Welcome back to Frame by Frame, where today we're analyzing American Psycho, a film that goes beyond the surface-level shock value to explore the disturbing depths of identity, wealth, and morality. This 2000s satirical thriller, directed by Mary Harron, is a chilling look at the 1980s yuppie culture and the terrifying psyche of its protagonist, Patrick Bateman. Introduction to Patrick Bateman, played by Christian Bale, is a wealthy, seemingly perfect man. He's a successful investment banker in New York City, living a life of luxury and excess. But the more we learn about Bateman, the clearer it becomes that his perfect exterior masks a deeply disturbed individual. His days are consumed by a rigid routine, spending hours on skincare, exercising, and maintaining his immaculate appearance. Everything about him, from his designer suits to his luxury apartment, is an extension of his desperate need for validation and control. Patrick's social life mirrors this emptiness. His fiancée, Evelyn, Reese Witherspoon, is shallow and emotionally disconnected, obsessed with their upcoming wedding that neither of them seems to care about. His relationships with colleagues like the insufferable Paul Allen, Jared Leto, and the timid Lewis Carruthers, Matt Ross, are superficial, marked by competition and jealousy. One of the film's most famous scenes encapsulates the vapid culture Patrick inhabits. During a lunch with his colleagues, they engage in a competitive display of business card envy. When Paul Allen pulls out a sleek, white card with minimalist design, Patrick's fragile ego shatters. The camera lingers on the cards as Bateman's voiceover reveals his intense jealousy, showing how this trivial detail becomes a symbol of the deep insecurity he feels. Highlights Patrick's obsession with status and appearance, which will drive his increasingly violent actions. Patrick's envy over Paul Allen's business card is the tipping point. When Paul mistakenly thinks Patrick is a friend, Bateman lures him to his apartment under the guise of bonding over drinks. After a tense conversation about their rivalry, Patrick reveals his true nature, murdering Paul in cold blood with an axe. The murder is both brutal and bizarre. Bateman delivers a monologue about the artistic merits of Huey Lewis in the news while hacking away at Paul. It's chilling how Bateman's need to articulate his superiority in a completely disconnected way reflects his moral emptiness. Afterward, Bateman carefully disposes of Paul's body, stealing his identity and covering up his crime by pretending Paul has gone away on business. As Bateman's confidence grows, so does his violence. One of the most disturbing acts is when he murders a homeless man and his dog in a cruel, senseless attack. Later, Bateman hires two sex workers, Christy, Kara Seymour, and Sabrina, Elizabeth Banks, and lures them to his apartment. Initially, he seems charming, offering champagne and seductive conversation. But the situation quickly turns violent. Bateman tortures and kills both women, a display of his need to dominate and objectify others. The violence is extreme, but the film consistently underscores the emptiness behind Bateman's actions. It's never about the victims themselves. He views them merely as tools for his fantasies of control. As Bateman's murderous spree continues, he becomes increasingly paranoid. Detective Donald Kimball, Willem Dafoe, is investigating the disappearance of Paul Allen, and Bateman finds himself under scrutiny. Bateman's attempts to act normal around Kimball, offering fake explanations, attempting to cover his tracks, only exacerbate his sense of unease. Yet despite his guilt and paranoia, no one seems to notice anything wrong. This reflects the film's central theme. Bateman exists in a world where appearances are everything, and his extreme actions are overlooked or misinterpreted as eccentricities by those around him. Bateman's mental state becomes increasingly unstable, manifesting in bizarre interactions with his colleagues. One such incident occurs when Lewis Carruthers, a nerdy and eager co-worker, expresses his romantic interest in Bateman. When Bateman responds by violently attacking him in the office bathroom, Lewis interprets the attack as a sexual advance, further confounding Bateman's sense of self. This moment is pivotal because it highlights Bateman's internal conflict. His violent impulses, which seem to stem from a deep-seated need for control and rejection, are confused with desires he doesn't fully understand. One of the most graphic and infamous moments in American Psycho comes when Bateman chases one of the sex workers, Christy, through his apartment building while holding a chainsaw. The scene is shocking in its violence, but also in its absurdity. Bateman's attempt to control and dominate is so far gone that it manifests as an almost cartoonish form of brutality. He ends up accidentally dropping the chainsaw, killing Christie by sheer accident, further emphasizing the chaos consuming his mind. As Bateman's body count rises, his sense of reality becomes more fragmented. He begins to lose track of who he has killed and what is real. His crimes feel disconnected from the world around him, and it becomes increasingly unclear whether they are a product of his delusions or real life. The film reaches its climax when Bateman, feeling the walls closing in, calls his lawyer Harold Carnes, Stephen Bugert, and leaves a detailed voicemail confession of his crimes, including the murder of Paul Allen. Desperate for acknowledgement of his actions, Bateman expects a reaction. But when he confronts Carnes the next day, the lawyer laughs it off, dismissing the confession as a joke. In a shocking twist, Carnes reveals he recently saw Paul Allen alive in London, leaving Bateman in utter disbelief. Bateman's guilt, paranoia, and sense of reality collapse entirely. Was he truly a killer, or is this all a delusion? The film ends ambiguously, with Bateman realizing that his confession, and indeed his entire existence, means nothing in the eyes of the world around him. American Psycho isn't just about the gruesome acts of one man. It's a chilling critique of the morally bankrupt culture of the 1980s. Bateman's violence and mental instability are a byproduct of a society obsessed with wealth, status, and superficiality. The film questions the very nature of identity. Bateman himself is often mistaken for others. His colleagues show little distinction between one another, and his actions are ignored or misunderstood. Ultimately, American Psycho leaves us with an unsettling question. Are Bateman's crimes real, or are they the product of his fractured psyche? In a world where appearances matter more than truth, the answer may not matter at all. What do you think? Was Patrick Bateman truly a killer, or just a man struggling with his identity in a hollow, materialistic world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Frame by Frame for more in-depth breakdowns of your favorite films.